Today I have someone really interesting. I have Adam with me here, and he talks about anxiety very specifically. However, compared to other people who talk about anxiety, Adam here talks about the first aid that you actually put the moment you have anxiety. Like the moment you get anxiety, what are like really the steps you actually implement? So this is what we are actually going to talk about the end most of the thing. And Adam has a free giveaway where he actually puts down step by step that we are actually going to talk about in detail in this podcast. And it's going to be really helpful. I watched it personally and I found it really helpful, which is why I brought him here. Thank you, Adam, for really making the time to be here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Prem. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you.
Thank you so much. This is something I found really interesting about your protocol, which is what you call it, the anxiety protocol, which is,
Mm.
I think many people talk about, even psychologists talk about, oh, if you're dealing with tough times, let's say a heartbreak or anxiety, acceptance is definitely like the key. However, that's so abstract, and it's very hard to know how to implement the abstract concept in like a tangible way in your life, especially when you're feeling anxious, you're not able to think straight, and you're like dealing with helplessness, hopelessness. So I want to ask you, like, how did you even like come up with this protocol?
Okay, great question. Thank you. Firstly, so the full name of it is the Anxiety Relief Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is because it gives you immediate relief from anxiety. Um, and interestingly enough, like we can say anxiety would be mostly fear-based, right? We kind of
Mm.
associate anxiety with fear, and I think like pure anxiety is fear-based. However, this protocol, this simple three-step process, really helps with any uncomfortable emotion, any overwhelming emotion. So
Mm-hmm.
sadness, confusion, feeling lost, even anger,
Nice.
these kinds of emotions that you're talking about, say with a heartbreak or something like that, the same thing works with them. Basically, this protocol is like first aid for emotional pain, we could say,
Mm.
or emotional suffering, right? Which I use the word anxiety because it's the most clear for people to kind of um just grab
Yeah,
onto, if I say emotional pain or emotional suffering, it's
it's
kind of
too
too broad.
abstract.
Yes. But your question was, how did I come to this protocol? So, uh, firstly, it was, I'll try and make short, but obviously I had anxiety. I didn't
Yeah.
know that I had anxiety. I was already starting to be a coach because I already knew that I had skills and talent in coaching.
Mm.
Um, and I studied with a coach called Daniel Packard, who was working with anxiety, and he had this method that he was using, which was based on inner child work. So he
Mm.
would have this very unique, specific way of doing inner child work, that was like just for certain people, it was just taking your anxiety down. Like they'd had anxiety for years, and within a week, their anxiety was dropping down to almost
Um,
nothing. Like with this work that he was doing. And it was through learning with him that I realized that what I was experiencing was called anxiety. I always knew that I like had this horrible feeling. I knew my family had anxiety, but I never like called it that for myself.
mm-hmm.
So I realized that this horrible feeling that I was experiencing could be called anxiety. And I started to apply Daniel's teaching, and it was helping me. Uh, and then over time, I kind of started to pull apart, let's say, the dynamics that were happening within this teaching that he was using. What were the
Mm.
core principles that were like having this effect. And as I was applying his teaching to myself, I had actually one main realization. The first one was that the most powerful thing that I was doing that would reduce my anxiety just like straight away every time, like really, really powerful, was listening. Right? I realized that whenever I like just listened, and I would say, I'm listening to myself. And when I said I'm listening and I felt into, and I did that, I was actually listening inside. So with my own awareness, listening to my own thoughts and listening to my feelings, I could feel the anxiety melting away.
Wow.
Right. And this was the beginning of, okay, I just took that out of, and I just went, okay, listening is a powerful thing to do. And yeah, it was a process of breaking down what he was doing, understanding the dynamics of it, understanding that, okay, there's a communication that's happening inside.
Yeah.
Inside, there's a communication that's happening, and that we can use the same tools that we know work for a communication with somebody who's outside of us with ourselves, and the same tools.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, for example, you know, if you are in a relationship, one of the most important things that you can do is to listen.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same. So the same thing that works in an external relationship works on this internal relationship. And then just to finish, like how I came to it, to actually the protocol, was I started to have some of my own coaching clients, because I started to go out on my own. And because I was having these insights, and I started to want to create my own system, and I started to have my own coaching clients, and I was trying to teach them what I had figured out and what was working for me, you know. And so through that, I came to these 3 steps.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, on calls teaching, and I was
really
like,
interesting.
do this and then do this and then do this, and I was like, okay, that's 3 steps. That's a good amount of things to remember.
Yeah.
You know,
all good things comes in threes.
Yeah, everything good comes in threes. And the other thing is that's really important, Prem, like, and why this protocol is important and why it's important for it to be simple and easy to remember is because anxiety is disorientating.
Yeah.
Anxiety is confusing. We often don't even realize it is anxiety. And so trying to remember anything complicated is just, you can't. You need to have something that's very easy to do that you'll remember. You need to train yourself to remember to do it, and then and that it works. It's simple, it's easy to do, and it always works.
Reliable.
That's what you need. Yes, because in anxiety, yes.
No, that's so interesting you say that, because I recently interviewed a ex-lawyer who now goes to like max security inmates, and he trains people to de-escalate like this angry guy coming at you in less than a minute. Okay, so that's what he does. And he was explaining that there's like 2 parts in the brain: the amygdala, that's the emotions cocktail creating machine, right? And the prefrontal cortex, right? And when you're getting emotionally, like when the amygdala is getting like activated and the emotions are hitting, your prefrontal cortex like shuts down.
Exactly.
So you're incapable to do logic, which is why you're saying it's really hard to like think straight, do straight. And you mentioned this beautiful thing that when the incident the teaching that they did in skydiving, could you share that? Because I think that's really in line with this.
Yes, exactly. This was the analogy that I realized was useful for understanding this thing. And it's exactly as you say. You know, the amygdala fear response, it's the fear thing that's being set off in your system, and it shuts down the logical part of the brain. So if you're trying to do anything that is logical, like trying to solve problems, it's just not going to work because you just don't have access to that part of the brain. And the example that I was giving was when I was learning to skydive
Yeah.
in New Zealand many years ago, and I was going to be jumping out of a plane on my own with a parachute.
Wow.
I had to learn to pull my chute, right? And it's a very simple, easy thing to do. Like if you're falling out of the sky, you've got your hands like this for balance, and so if you just put one hand down here, the wind would catch this one, and you would start to turn, right? And you would
Oh,
start spinning. So you have to bring both hands in at once, and you bring one down here and one here. You grab the cord here, and then you
yeah.
pull out like this, and it pulls a chute. So you just do, it's just like 2 steps, boom, boom, right? Super easy to do. But we spent 4 hours learning how to do it on the ground, because just repeating it, so that it's so ingrained in your mind that there's more chance that when you're falling out of the sky and your amygdala fear response is taken over and you're not able to use your rational mind,
Yeah.
that, you know, you'll have more chance to remember to just do this.
Your body
right?
remembers.
Yes, your body remembers. And I'll be honest, the first time I still forgot. Like, I still messed it
That's
up. I
crazy.
still just went like this, because that's the natural, like, I know I have to
Yeah.
do this. Like, and I was like, "Drrrr." So, but with a few jumps, I got it. And that's what it's like with anxiety. That's what it's like with this protocol. You know, you need to train yourself to do it. So you train yourself when you don't have anxiety necessarily, or the anxiety is not strong, because it's much
Yeah.
easier to do. You train yourself to remember these 3 simple steps.
Yeah.
And when you're trained to do it, and it becomes a habit, and it becomes something that you do automatically, then when you have strong anxiety or overwhelming emotions, you know, whatever it is, fear,
Yeah.
anger, sadness, you're lost in these emotions, but you've trained yourself just to remember this simple thing that you can do like that, and it will immediately shift what's happening inside and just get
Wow.
you out of that overwhelming sensation and that overwhelming whatever it is, and back into a place where you are in some control, right? Out of that overwhelming fear response that's taken over the frontal cortex, so that you can start to think logically and
Yeah.
think again, which is why it's first aid. It's the first thing you need to do just to get back under control, and get back to yourself. And then you can continue with this, because this will continue to help. Or you can, if you need to solve some problems, then you will at
Yeah.
least have now access to that part of your brain.
Yeah. And it's interesting because they say when you're listening to someone, you're lending your prefrontal cortex. So it's like they are processing the logical part through you, when you're listening to someone, because you're lending your
Yes.
prefrontal cortex, right?
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. I did
because you're
not hear
lending
that
your
before.
logical
That's
part to them, and then slowly through that, their logical part gets activated. However, I want to like go back a little bit before we go
sure.
to the 3 steps. And I want to
Yes.
like delve in deep into this concept of listening. Although it sounds really simple, it's really like, what does that mean? Like, what does it look like to listen to yourself in a way that impacts you in the way that it did for you?
A great question. So I say deep listening.
Mm,
Listening is a skill.
yeah.
So, you know, depending on how, and I would say there's a sliding scale, depending on how good a listener you are, is how much of an effect it will have inside. But that said, any listening is better than none. And even the most basic rudimental listening will already work. Okay, so if somebody's trying this, straight away it's going to work. And then over time, you can develop this skill and get better and better, and it will be more and more healing. What is listening? It's an interesting question, because You know, we know listening externally that we use our ears, right?
Yeah.
It's let's say in a relationship and with somebody who's there, they are talking, they are expressing, and you
Yeah.
are listening, but what are you really doing? I would say this: you're receiving and absorbing information, right? The fundamental of it is that you're receiving and absorbing information. And this is the same that's inside, because when you're listening to your own thoughts and even listening to your own emotions, you are not using your ears,
Yeah.
right? But we still are absorbing information, and this is what is, and it's doing a couple of things. Like, anxiety gets out of control because you have many thoughts and many emotions that are connecting together and setting each other off. There are patterns of emotions and thoughts inside, and it's the way they connect together that's out of your control, and that gets out of control, right? It's these quick firing things that are all conditioned to fire off at the same time. And a major part of that is thoughts. A major part of that is thoughts, which is information, right?
Yeah.
It's information.
Yeah.
And when you listen internally, you are absorbing that information. So until you listen, it's bouncing around, and it's just kind of doing its thing, and there's no control on it. But when you listen, you completely change the dynamic of what's happening inside of you.
Like it's trying to it's trying to communicate something to you.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And
Yes.
until you get that message, the anxiety keeps increasing in intensity till you are now forced to listen to it.
Exactly. So I give an example, which I actually took originally from Tim Box, who also works with anxiety. He has a TEDx talk, and he talks about this, that inside of us, we have this mental and emotional system, and we have different parts of us that want different things. We have, and these parts of us have voices, right? They communicate to us through feelings and thoughts that I want this and I want that, or I'm afraid of that. Like, do this, don't do that. We have all these conflicting ideas and thoughts and emotions, like around simple things. Should I eat this? Should I go there? Should I, and you can have this storm of thoughts and ideas, and they're conflicting. There's these different parts of you that want different things. And a way of understanding this that I think is very useful, just to create a map that we can work with, is to understand it like you are the captain of a ship. The ship is your body, your system. Your awareness, it could be your soul, or in IFS, they call it the self. Your awareness.
That's crazy. Yeah, I was about to say, even in IFS, they use that kind of view perspective, like internal family system. IFS.
Yes. Yeah. So I learn a lot from IFS, and I take a lot from IFS. My understanding of a lot of this comes from IFS, but the analogy that I like to use is the ship with the crew, because like IFS is in a family systems, right? Which would say you have a family system inside of you, and there's all the roles that they have, and there's the self. And I like the idea of the self. With the ship, I like it because you're going somewhere. You're on a mission.
Could you tell me the analogy of the ship?
So the ship is just that your body is the ship. You imagine you're on a sailing ship. I like to imagine Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
You're Jack Sparrow, or the female version of Jack Sparrow, Penelope Cruz or something. You're driving a ship, and you have all this crew, and you need the crew to help you drive the ship. You're a team. You're a team, you're going somewhere, you're sailing across the oceans, you're living your life, and you're having adventures, and you're doing things together, and you have to work together. And all of these parts of you are valuable parts of your team. And you are the captain. You, your awareness, you, the self, you, the soul, you, your whatever it is, your awareness, your ability to perceive the thoughts and emotions is the captain of the ship. So you are the captain, and the thoughts and emotions are these parts of you that are trying to help in the best way that they know how. But basically, we're not trained. We were never trained to be a good captain. And we learned some things, and we learned to drive this ship more or less, but it's a bit of a mess. And sometimes we'll have a mutiny, you know. And I almost say, like, the anxiety attack is like all these crew members are coming and just like screaming, shouting, and la 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 la. And they could be saying things like, "There's a rock over there. You know, it's too windy. There's sharks." Like all these things that they think are important. And the way as a captain to solve this situation is to treat them like people, and to, if they are in having it, because basically, let's say it's these crew members that are having this intense emotional experience, if we do the same for them as we would for somebody externally who is having this kind of this same kind of thing, crisis, let's say, if we are there for them, if we deeply listen, if we comfort them, they will calm down immediately. We're giving them the attention that they have not been getting this whole time, because, as you say, coming back to your point, they are trying to get your attention. Your crew members, parts of you, of your nervous system, that are trying the best way they know how to help you navigate your life, are just trying to get your attention and tell you what they think is important, right? And so naturally, it's a message that they have for you. And the only way that they're going to stop trying to tell you that message is if you get the message.
Exactly.
If you receive the message, coming back to listening, if you absorb the information, right? It's the only way that they will stop. They will continue and continue, because they think that it's life and death what they have to say, even if it's not. They don't know. According to them, according to their best guess, they think you're about to crash into a rock, you know? And even if they're wrong, they're gonna shout and scream until you listen and say, "Hey, I hear you. I'm listening." You absorb that information. "Oh, you think we're gonna crash into a rock? Let me check. There's no rock. It's okay. Calm down." You know, at least they know they got their information and you checked. They're like, "Okay, he checked, she checked. It's the captain. I trust them. I calm down." That's the way it works. Like, that's the way it works.
The thing is, sometimes we kind of like, we feel so anxious that I think we just, in that tough situation, we just make some random member a captain. You know what I mean? We try to like make a random crew member a captain, and we give that responsibility to them. And now we feel powerless, we feel hopeless in that process, and they are not the captain, so they can't run the show. And now they feel stuck, and it's just like this toxic dynamic.
Yeah, when you are like not a good captain of your ship, the crew members will start to take over. Right? Because they don't trust you. They don't trust you. And so, and I hope anybody listening or watching this in the future, like, this is not going too far into the analogy or whatever, but this is how I see it. This is how IFS sees it. It's like, if the captain of the ship, if you are not showing up as a leader, and IFS talks about leadership, self-leadership, ultimately their goal is self-leadership. Same with me. What I would say, ultimately, I'm I'm wanting to promote the same thing, that you become the leader in your life, right? That you take the helm and you take control and you learn how to navigate the relationships that you have inside of you with the different parts of you. You start to heal those relationships and build trust with those crew members, with those different parts of you, so that they trust you.
Build trust.
So that,
Yeah.
trust. You listening to them because you need them. That's how you make good decisions, is by listening to all the information that you get. When people say, you know, we have all the answers inside of us, well, how are you going to find those without listening, right?
Yeah.
It's by deeply listening, learning, not knowing that not everything that you hear is true, right? It's like learning to have discernment, learning to investigate, learning to and this all builds trust inside of you. And when you are the leader, these crew members will not just take over, right?
They'll trust
You're
you.
strong. They trust you and you're strong. You're a strong leader. But a weak leader that the crew doesn't trust, they can easily push the leader aside and do what they want, do what they think is best, really. They just take over, and one can take over and for a while, and then it can switch another. And this is why people have like very conflicting personalities sometimes, right? Because these different parts of them take over. And yes, this is fascinating. It's a little bit deeper, and I'll just say that you don't need to understand all this for this protocol to work. But it's a great it's
like you're painting a painting, right?
It's a great map.
Yeah, it's a
for
great
understanding what's happening inside.
Exactly.
It's a great map to use.
It's so interesting when it comes to listening, because let's say you're like talking to a partner or like a person, and they're talking and you're like absorbing information, but they don't feel heard.
Yes.
So what's like going wrong there? Because I feel the same thing as well, because even when I look inside, I'm looking at the sensation, I'm looking at the feelings, but I don't feel that the crew member is feeling heard, even though I'm listening, you know?
Yeah, so this is a great point, and it's another level to listening. So when I said listening is a skill, and the better you get at this, the more effect it will have. So firstly, just listening helps. And I want to keep repeating the importance of the simplicity of the protocol. You don't need the deeper layers for it to work. Just listening and what you already know helps, and it will work immediately. So that's the first thing. Then to go deeper into it, listening is a skill, and you know how well you listen by how well the other person feels heard, right? That's really how you can test the quality of your listening. And ultimately your goal in listening is, it's to fully receive the information, and you fully get what the other person is saying. You know, if someone's talking and they're expressing an idea, if you say jump in then with your idea, they're not going to feel heard. I would ask this question normally: what would make them feel heard, right? For me, and I've seen this in like mediations and things like this. When you're mediating, and I've done a few mediations between two people, and they're talking and they're not hearing each other. They're hearing what their interpretation and what their like anxiety and trauma, how it perceives what's been said, and they are responding from that, and the other person doesn't feel heard at all. They feel basically it's been misinterpreted, and so they'll repeat the same thing, right? again, they'll continue to repeat the same thing until they feel heard. So the
Yeah.
way, like, I would say there's two things you can do to boost, two main things that come to mind to really boost your listening. One is the intention behind it is I want to know.
Mm.
And also in general, like with the protocol, it's the intention behind it that makes it strong. So to really listen is your intention. I want to know.
Mm.
Curiosity. Full curiosity. Like if you come to me and you're telling me about this breakup that you had,
Yeah.
and you're coming to me and you're wanting to express, because you might not want to, but you want to express, you feel like you need to talk about it, and I start to ask questions. Why? How did that feel? Why does that feel?
Mm.
Why does that feel sad? Why are you sad about that? What was, and I'm curious and I ask questions, right?
Yeah.
It shows the desire to know, right?
Mm.
And I'm asking questions, because I care. It's also a caring and a kind of love to really want to know. And when you want to know, the person feels heard. So that's the first layer. And the second layer, which really like solidifies it, is to repeat back to the person what they've said and ask them, did I hear you correctly? So if I said to you, okay, I hear that you're feeling sad because your girlfriend is gone and you really loved her, and you remember these times when you used to go walking in the park, and when you remember this brings up this emotion, and I start to describe all the things that you're expressing to me, you really know that I've heard you and that I have heard you, because you know that your message has been received 100% when the person is able to share it back to you exactly the way that you see it, heard it, felt it, etc.
Yeah.
Like that is the full circle that shows a person that they've been heard and the information has been received, and that is released now from them.
And it's so interesting because there's also like when you're saying there's like a context behind it, which is of I do not know, and to like admit that I do not know, which is where like the desire comes from, or I want to know.
Yes.
But before that,
Yes.
I need to admit to myself I actually don't know.
Yes.
What's
Yeah.
And I think most of the time we come with like this preconceived, oh, this is what happened,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. There's a humbleness in it.
Yeah.
A humbleness and an openness.
Yeah. Which allows for that curiosity, which allows for the desire to even be born.
Exactly. That's a good
interesting.
point.
But even with your anxiety, I'm noticing now as I'm speaking, it's crazy. But as I'm speaking, I'm noticing I'm looking at my anxiety in the way that, oh, I know how the should go. I know that I should be just looking at it, listening, and I know this should be like solved, rather than coming, okay, I do not know what this feeling is. Let me like listen. There's like a difference, in the quality of
having anxiety now.
No, I'm not. No, like when I have anxiety, what I do is I just look at the sensation. Like I point out where the sensation is in my body, and I look at the eye of the storm is what I call. Like I find the sensation, I find like the highest intensity point in the sensation. Let's say it's the middle of the chest or something, and I just observe it. Of course, it helps, but it helps and it like plateaus where it doesn't like fully go away. And I'm noticing it plateaus because I'm looking at it, but I also have like a preconceived model of like what it should be like, what it should be like after like I did the process, I'm coming with a perspective of knowingness, like, oh, I know this is supposed to work, like
of how things should be.
Exactly how things should be.
This idea of should I can talk about for hours, but should is an instant judgment, right? And a judgment is obviously the opposite of acceptance,
Yeah.
which you said in the beginning, uh,
True.
which is the third step of the protocol, is deep acceptance, you know, with this simple phrase, it's okay. You know, that brings you into the acceptance, because you need to be reminded to come back to it, because it's one of the hardest ones to do, right? Because you don't want it to feel it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't, on some level, you know, it's so normal. I still get it. I still use the protocol, and I still
Yeah.
get this feeling like, why am I feeling this? You know, even like, okay, I'm like, surely I should be free from this by now, or, you know, there's all these kinds of things that are frustration
Yeah.
with this feeling. You don't want to feel it, and it's normal not to want to feel it. So there's nothing wrong with not wanting to feel it, except that it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Right? Except that it doesn't help. So we want to find something that does help. And this, it's okay, such a beautiful thing to say. And it just antidotes straight away all of this. You know, it just puts you into like, oh yeah, I need to make this okay. I need to be okay with this. I need to be okay with this. And I think one of the most important things that I can share that is a challenge for me, for a lot of people, especially people who do a lot of meditation, and they've gone a long way with meditation and mindfulness practices that are very good for anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Is trying to outline the difference between like observation, allowing, observing, etc., which are very, very good for anxiety.
To making a distinction.
Making a distinction between these things that are very good and this protocol, which is dynamite.
Wow.
You know, it's like 5-10x the power of just simple observing or being there, which work great. You know, it's because the same, if you just imagine this, this is a relationship with yourself, with your crew members, with these parts of you, with your emotions, with your thoughts. It's a relationship. And just like with an external relationship, if you come to me, and you're sad, there's a big difference between me observing you and allowing you to be, which is quite neutral. It's a little bit more than neutral, and it's good. Much better than turning away, right? It's the first step. Yeah, it's better than ignoring. It's way better than ignoring, and that's why it's great, because, and it's the first step of the protocol, which is to be there, loving presence, right? To turn towards yourself. And it's great.
Yeah.
But this is a relationship. Deep listening, it's so much stronger. Listening, it's like, I don't know. It's like turning a vacuum on is the best way I can explain it. Like you have all these thoughts and emotions there that are floating around and firing off, and you're observing it, and you're like, whoa, you know, holy shit. You know, and I just try and let that go, and I just, you know, and I'll do the best. And you might succeed with it, and it's great, and it works.
Yeah.
But if you listen, it's like turning on a vacuum. You like
no, it's so it's so
interesting
you say this, because it's like connecting in my head. And you know, because attention, when you're giving attention to anything, I feel the moment you give attention to something, it's like a form of love, you know. It's
Absolutely.
like if there's a dog comes or like a cat comes, and if I want to love it, what do? We like spend time with it, like we give it our attention, you know. And the moment we literally even like avert our attention, we're like removing our love and placing it in some place else.
Absolutely.
But listening build trust. And
Yes.
giving your attention builds that loving relationship. So when you're listening and giving it your attention, it's like a
Yes.
love plus trust combo, right?
Yes, I would say both of those are true, and I would take it another level
Mm.
and say attention. You could say attention equals love.
Yeah.
It's like another word for love. And I would say love also is care.
Yeah.
So
True,
it's
true.
like, we feel loved when we feel cared for. And
Mm.
so the first step to caring for something is to give it attention,
Mm.
right?
True, true, true.
But let's say, and my teacher Daniel used to always use the example of a garden. Let's say you have a flower growing in a garden. There's all kinds of attention that it needs, and it needs all of those kinds of attention for it to flourish, right? It
Yeah.
needs water, it needs
Soil.
good soil, it needs sunlight. So it needs all of these elements
Yeah.
for it to grow. And your nervous system, your emotional system needs certain things for it to flourish. And one of the things it needs is listening. And I would say listening is caring, and listening is a form of love, right? And it's not necessarily the listening specifically that builds trust. It's caring and loving in all of the forms over time that builds trust, right? Trust is when you believe that this is going to continue to happen, right? It's not just happened once, it always happens. When you have a friend that always turns up to help you in your time of need, you trust that they will continue to do that because they always did, right? And the same with your system, your emotional system. When you turn up with these forms of love, listening, being there, comforting, just showing up consistently over time, that builds trust. And that's what would eventually
give you
that's
the
what
confidence.
really, yes, if you want to talk about self-esteem and confidence, that's when your system trusts you. That's when your system is fully trusts you. It's released its trauma, so you're not getting triggered by things, and it just has this trust in your ability to be a good leader, and that self-esteem. You believe in yourself. You love yourself. Yes, all of these things kind of merge together.
Cool. So yeah, that's amazing. So we are teasing the people a little bit too long, I feel. So let's go to like the 3-step protocol, and you give the 3 steps first, and then we'll like go into like step by step into like how much ever detail. Yeah.
Sure. So I've already mentioned them throughout. I'll just say before that so for each of the steps, I give 2 words that are the anchors. So they're the things that you need to remember. When I talked about falling out of a plane, it's like 1, 2. The 2 words are the thing that you remember that helps direct your attention to where it needs to go. So the words themselves are not what heals. The words themselves are not what creates the shift inside of you that reduces your anxiety very quickly. But they are kind of like the delivery system that helps you focus your attention where it needs to go. And I'll just say, because we've talked about each of the steps, I don't need to introduce.
It's like a lighthouse.
Huh?
It's like a lighthouse for the ships.
Yes. In what way?
Because like in the darkness, these 2 words act like the lighthouse, so you kind of like know, oh, this is where we are supposed to be headed. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Just should
feel
like
like
stick
in-
with the ship
Yeah,
theme, you know.
in general, I would say this is a guidance system in a way. For the whole thing is a guidance system for you when you're in the dark, for sure. But the specific, like the two words, I don't know. I have to think about that one and come
Yeah.
back, because I like to
Yeah,
be I like to be
yeah.
specific and clear
Capture.
with analogies that really hit. But yeah, so there's two words. It's the intention behind the words that count. And I guess I'll just say as well, like, people can, you can apply this over seconds, over minutes, over hours, depending how much time you need. I usually get people to measure their anxiety before and after doing this. So just your subjective experience from 1 to 10, 1 being no anxiety and 10 being a panic attack. So just like, if you use the protocol, try to, and you may not do it in the moment, but you can check back after, okay, how strong was my anxiety out of 10 before and after, and how long did I do it for to get it to that place? And, you know, it can have an effect in seconds. It can have an effect in a minute, could be a few minutes, you know, you just do it for the time that you have and the time that you need. And you can just repeat, you don't necessarily need all 3 steps. You can just repeat one of the steps. You feel which one is working best for you, depending what the anxiety or emotion is about in the moment. You can use one or other of the steps. And it always helps. Everybody I have showed this to, it helped, and it helped straight away.
Wow.
It's quite incredible, and I can say that 100%. So the 3 steps are: first, turning towards yourself, turning inwards. This is when the person comes to you who is in emotional pain, you turning towards them and giving them your full loving presence, right? Rather than turning away and avoiding, which unfortunately it's normal that most of us do. This is just to not do that and just come into ourselves. And what we say is simply, I'm here. I'm here. And this brings your attention in. And I think you mentioned it. I recommend bringing your attention kind of into the center of your body, the center of your chest, around your heart or whatever. It doesn't need to be esoteric, just like where you feel your emotions inside, right?
Yeah.
Bring your attention into the center. I'm here. And this sets the stage for the other 2. You don't always need to do it, but it is a great one to do, and I often do it. The second one, which we've talked about most, is I'm listening, right? I don't feel like I need to introduce it too much now.
Yeah.
But the power of deep listening, 5 times, 10 times the power of observing or allowing. You know, those are great, but this really turns on a vacuum of absorbing information. It will just completely, if you can really listen, it will completely change the dynamic of what's happening inside of you very, very quickly. And again, the more you learn to do this and the better you get at it, the more effect it will have. So it will work immediately, but it can also work much better over time.
Yeah.
And the third step is comforting, the same way we would if somebody came to us in distress. We're not problem solving, and we are not trying to figure out, and we're not judging, right? We are accepting, and we're comforting the person. We're telling them, hey, it's okay. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to think what you're thinking. These are quite nice extensions. So the kind of the anchor phrase is, it's okay. It's okay. And then I like to add specifically, it's okay to feel what you're feeling, because this is often really the main judgment that we have, is that we're judging the fact that we're feeling the feeling. We're not accepting that this is what's happening. And it doesn't mean that you want to feel this. Doesn't mean that you want to have this feeling, but you're just saying it's happening, and I'm going to accept and the fact that it's happening, and I'm going to tell myself that it's okay to have this feeling. It's allowing that feeling to happen in an accepting space, because for the anxiety to get released from the system, you have to feel it. It has to process through the system. The fact that you've pushed it down and not felt it in the past is why it's still there and why it's growing, right? So just allowing that feeling and to be there is hugely healing. Is hugely healing, and it just feels and so much anxiety is caused by the judgment of the feeling. Whatever the feeling is, then you're judging it. Judgment immediately causes more anxiety, and you get into these patterns. So this really is a very loving way to treat yourself, and it just reduces. It just makes it allows space for the emotion to process, and it cuts those patterns of self-judgment out immediately.
Wow, that's nice. So let's go for the first step. So let's say I'm here. So you're like bringing your attention from the outside to inside. Now I've noticed that when I'm having anxiety, because I'm a very anxious person as well, which is why my entire channel is about anxiety, trying to like figure it out. It's a blessing in a
really?
disguise. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's been my journey. So
Yes.
I've noticed that when I tune into, let's say when there's a sensation, I'm just looking inwards, right? Immediately I feel like more nauseous sometimes. Like like the sensation itself is like a nauseous sensation because of the anxiety is like making you kind of like nauseous, but because you're not giving it your attention, it's not like that intense. But the moment you give it your attention, you like start feeling more nauseous, and it's really hard to like be there.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It can, it can make, well, you're now feeling the feeling. You're now in there feeling it. And depending on your anxiety, if you have a lot of anxiety, if you have a lot going on inside, it could be intense, there could be an intensity to it. Again, so my suggestions are this, like when it's like that, this is not something that you would necessarily do out in public, because you can do this you can use this in any situation. Like if I'm on this call and you're talking and I'm feeling anxiety, I can be doing this, right? And I can be calming myself down because I have space and time, and I'm here and I can do it while I'm listening to you. I can be doing things inside my head, and that can help. But if you are in some kind of situation where it's that strong, right? There's two things. My first question would be, can you handle it? Can you handle it? Right? Because if you go inside and you feel nauseous, well, that's quite a lot of anxiety that's going on inside you, or that's quite a big experience that's happening inside of you. Can you lay down somewhere or sit somewhere quiet and allow that to happen? Can you go in and just say, look, I'm here. I can feel this nausea, and it's okay. It's okay to feel nauseous, right? And just give yourself that space to feel that, because that feeling is there. That feeling is there. And whilst going external can reduce it, it's not actually reducing the amount of it in your system. It's just producing your experience of it in that moment, but it's
Mm,
just staying there. So if you can handle it, right? This is why a
yeah.
great question is, can I handle this right now? Can I face this right now? You know, take some space for yourself and allow yourself to go in. You know, you have this protocol will work and with the most extreme anxiety,
Yeah.
you
So you
know,
can use like the third step.
that you can handle. Specifically the third step in that situation, or the first and the third, I'm here and
Yeah.
it's okay. If there's thoughts, I'm listening. But if it's just a strong emotion, like it's okay. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. I'm here. I'm here.
Mm,
I'm here. I can add some other things. You know, I keep the protocol simple because I don't want to overwhelm people in the beginning. But
yeah.
once you get better at it, and you know, I teach other things that specifically in this situation when it's very strong, I would say to myself things like, I love you no matter what. It's going to be okay. I'm here for you. It's going to be okay. I'm here for you. I know that you're feeling horrible. I know you're feeling nauseous. I know. I'm here for you. Just these loving things that you would say to a child
Mm,
or to somebody who is in extreme emotional pain. Like, I get it. I'm
mm,
here. I know. And you just ride it out, you know? You ride through the storm and you just use these simple things that are the lighthouse, you know, that are the guiding star in that storm. And it's horrible
mm,
and you don't want to feel it, but if you do this, when we'll come out of that storm and you will have processed and released that an amount of anxiety from your system, because anxiety, my view of this is that anxiety, or what we call anxiety, fear-based responses and emotions that are out of proportion to the situation, are always based on trauma. And you have an amount of trauma inside of you
mm,
that is a finite amount. And when you do this kind of thing, not only do you kind of ride out the storm so that it will leave and you will come back to yourself, but you're also releasing, and this again is more advanced, but you're releasing that amount of trauma from your system. So there's that much emotions and
mm.
that have left and won't come back. Doesn't mean you won't get anxiety again,
The
but
intensity will be less.
you've processed that much. And if you continue to do that, it will keep coming back less strong in
Mm.
relation to whatever that trigger was, because you could get triggered by something else and you need to deal with that anxiety,
It's
right?
like constant healing.
Yes, and when the beautiful thing about this protocol when you do it is that you are doing that longer term healing as well, because
Mm,
I talk about two goals with anxiety. The first one is the immediate relief, first aid, just getting out of the overwhelming feeling so that you're back in control. And even if it is very strong, you need to take a bit more time to do it, but using the protocol, you will get back into control with it, right? But there's another goal, which is to be free from it so that it doesn't come back. So
mm,
it doesn't get triggered in the first place. That's the ultimate goal, right? When I talk about getting free, I'm really saying getting free from the stored thoughts and emotions that can be triggered, that are underneath controlling our life
yeah.
from the deep.
You think the three-step process will like get you there to like the ultimate like freedom, or it's just like a first aid?
I believe that this three-step process is enough to use it consistently. There are other things that you can do with it that will make it stronger. There are other things that you can do to make it stronger, but I believe that this protocol is one of, if not the most powerful thing that you can do as a core base that will help get you there. Things like mixing it with breathing exercises is great because you are circulating the energy. You know, motion is energetic and you need to feel it. And the breathing exercise really helps to move the energy in your body. And process emotions. So part of it is processing. I would say, yeah, that's another thing that can help a lot. And then I have other techniques that go on top that well, there's many things that you can do to speed up the process, let's say.
But this is like the first stepping stone to like not spiral downwards and to give that space to even do the breathing exercises and stuff like that.
I would say this is a cornerstone of it, because whatever, you know, basically anything that you do to get free, to get fully free, what you're doing then is releasing trauma from the system, right? And basically you're looking for it. You can, when you just get anxiety randomly, or you're just living your life and you start to get anxiety, use the protocol, let's say you're using it reactively, right? The thing happens and you use this protocol and it helps, and this will heal you over time and it will help you in the moment, right? Well, but you're still at you know, this level, which is great. You know, if this is all anyone does, you don't need to do more. It's a little bit masochistic. How do you say it? Masochist, like say the one where, you know, like
you get pleasure from pain.
Well, it's like if you want to get free quicker, what you're basically doing then is you're looking to trigger your trauma on purpose, right? So you're not just waiting for it to get triggered randomly by life. You're saying, I want to get free from this, and this is what I do, and this is why I'm making crazy strides forward in my life, you know. And I used to be so afraid to talk on camera or in certain situations, and I really just it's gone, you know. Not 100% gone, maybe I still get some nerves in certain situations, but like I'm processing so quickly that it's really changing quickly for me. And that's because I am purposely triggering the stuff inside of me so that I can experience it. But it's still the protocol that I use when I want to process the emotions. So I'm still using this protocol. Basically, I do something that triggers it, you know. There's many things that you can do, and then I use the protocol to process the emotions. Because as soon as you get triggered, you're in this storm of thought. It still feels horrible, you know, and
a synaptic storm.
Yes, you're in a synaptic storm, exactly, and you're like,
sounds cool, right?
And you're in it. You're feeling these horrible feelings. It's like, you know, and I could avoid that. You know. I could just be like, I'm just going to live a chill life and not trigger this on purpose. But I do it because I know that if I trigger it and then I do this process, I'm cleaning inside every time.
No, it's so funny. It's nice how like everything is like teaming with the boats, you know, like the synaptic storm, guiding stars, you see.
Yes.
But
that's why I love the boat analogy.
I would like to add like another layer of like this thing. I'm a very intellectual guy, as you know, must have figured out.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I recently did let's say a trip. And in that trip, I was having anxiety, and I'm like, I want to heal. I mean, I wanted to like understand why, and I want to understand my purpose. I want to understand why I was feeling this. So I'm in front of like these two big figures, you know, and they're asking me, I have two choices. One, I can heal you. 2, I can understand why. You can understand why. Which one would you pick? You know? And I was like, just please heal me. And they were like, good choice. And of course, they went to like this thing. And it was so insightful for me because realized what I actually wanted from life, which is to heal. Right. And I feel,
Right.
and not to actually figure it out. I thought I was almost using figuring out as a weapon to then attack and heal, right?
Right.
And of course, you
Yes.
can get that intellectual high by figuring it out, and oh, I understand
Yes.
deeper now how to listen and stuff like that. But
Yes.
what I actually wanted is to heal, and just understanding something doesn't help you heal. And connecting this to like the ship analogy is that
Yes.
the ship is sailing in the ocean, and I
Yes.
feel most of the time you're trying to like study how the ocean is reacting, how the waves are forming. Okay, this
Yeah.
wave formed because of like this ocean thing, or this trauma happened because this one incident in my childhood triggered this. I had like this
Yes.
opinion, blah blah blah.
Sure.
But
Yes. Yes.
I think what we really want is we want the ship to sail and not sink, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And that is like a
What I want.
completely different, yeah, and that's a completely different skill, like sailing the ship on the ocean compared to
Yeah.
understanding why the ocean is acting like so stormy and so unpredictable, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's a great analogy. And I think I mentioned at the beginning, but just to open it up again, because it's so crucial.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake that we make when people have anxiety, and that makes anxiety worse, is trying to figure out why you have anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to solve the problem, and it's logical, because it's like, okay, I have anxiety. If I could just figure out
Yeah.
why I have anxiety, I could not have anxiety. Logical, right?
Yeah.
Great idea. But in a way, it's like, yeah, there's a storm. If I just figure out why there's a storm,
Does it help you sail the boat? Yeah.
yeah, that's a great analogy. If I just figure out why there's a storm, I could, I wouldn't have to be in a storm. Maybe it's almost, it's like that. It's like,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Yeah, if you could, but like, you again, you don't have access to that part of your brain right now.
Yeah.
The figuring out part of your brain is disactivated. You're in a fear response. You just need to get out of the storm. And that's something different. That's just like, you need to, drop that sail, hoist that sail, and get most people under the thing, whatever it is. Like, you just have a few things that you need a protocol that you've figured out before, that your crew knows about, that when this happens, you guys work together and you do that, and you get through the storm. Like, then when you get out of the storm, you can reflect, like, oh, what could we have done better? What maybe we could have avoided that storm, or whatever it is. Like, you can figure out afterwards, and figuring out is an important part of learning.
Yeah.
And understanding yourself, and you can reflect on this and how that storm went. But when you're in the storm, when you're like in there, you just need to do exactly the right things that are for that situation. And this is what this protocol does.
Yeah. And also, you only need to figure out to the extent where it helps you navigate the next storm better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need to like understand like how like seabeds are working, or how the moon is pulling on the oceans, or how
Sure.
like after that level, I think is like redundant if your goal is to heal, and if your intention is to heal, not to like understand why.
Yes. I mean, people want to feel good, right? I mean, you and anyone who's listening or watching, like, we really want to feel good. We really want to feel good. And this thing about healing is like, all these distractions and things that we do is because on some level, even if it's a low level, we don't feel good. Like, they're available to us, like in a really healthy system. So talking about healing, in a really healthy system, everything is amazing. Unless,
Yeah.
unless you're in a really difficult situation, and that happens, like, but if nothing bad is happening, which most of the time nothing bad is happening, and I'm talking about everyone who's got their basic needs met, okay? If you've
Yeah.
got food and water and shelter, right? You've got your basic needs met, and there's no catastrophe, which is most people most of the time, or
Yeah.
that's what this applies to, because when you don't have those basic needs met, then you need a different strategy, right?
Yeah.
That we're not talking about. But when you have your basic needs met, there's no catastrophe, like everything is amazing.
Yeah.
if you
It's
don't
beautiful.
have trauma, everything is amazing. Sunlight, plants, people, simple things, food, it's just incredible, and it's like the world is magical. And that's what we want to experience. That's the way we want to experience things, and that's what's available when you don't have this underlying discomfort that is basically the trauma and the stored thoughts and emotions. They're just below the surface, and they're either getting triggered, which you experience them a lot, which is anxiety, or they're like a low level discomfort that you don't want to feel, so you distract yourself by eating, drinking, social media, all these things that are just kind of like, get you external so you don't feel this low level. And this is the ultimate, why for me the ultimate goal is to get free, and what I want to ultimately help people with is to get free, because I believe it's possible, maybe not to be 100% free, but to be very free
To have
from
more
this.
moments of freedom in life as
Yeah, I
possible.
think it's spectrum. The freer you get, the more you experience the beauty of life
Yeah.
that's there anyway. And so it's, even if it takes, even if you never get 100% free, because I don't even know if that's possible, but say you could get like 70 or 80% free, and you're like 30-40% free now, like every day that you're moving towards that goal, you're going to enjoy life more. The amount that you move this way is the percentage by which your enjoyment of the experience of life will improve. And not just your experience of life, but the love and joy and care that you will be able to give and transmit to others. So the experience of the beauty of life that you can give to others, transmit, is also moving. The more freer you are. Yes.
True. Yeah, and it's so interesting as well, because I've heard this. I don't know whether they actually do this, but during a storm, what sailors do, they kind of just turn off everything, put all the sails up, and they
Down.
just ride the storm. You know what I mean? Because you're in a position where the nature is just so strong, you have no other choice apart from giving in, because you can't control your ship in the storm even if you wanted to, because it's just a
Right.
storm,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
So
kind
they
of
just give
surrender.
in and they ride the wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I just think like I would interpret that, and I would bring it back to the first step where I say I'm here.
Yeah.
And I would say, and one of the things, what you're doing in that step, because each of these steps I can talk about for a long time, I can say them very quickly and I can go very deep into them. But one of the important things that you're doing is you're letting go of outcomes. You're not trying to get anywhere all of a sudden. When you're on a ship, you're like on your mission to get there. But when the storm comes, you stop that mission, and your mission is just to the storm, to survive the storm. And it's the same thing with anxiety. If you can switch and this is so fundamental, man. It's so fundamental, and it's the first step, and it changes everything. If you can switch tracks, we don't want to do this because we're so focused on our goals, and it's great to have goals. I have a lot. You know, I'm very ambitious. But if you can switch tracks in the moment when you have anxiety, and you can make your anxiety the focus, if you can make the storm the focus, and just completely let go of any other goals for that moment, you know, whether it's a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, whatever's needed, right?
Yeah.
However long your system needs to ride out this storm, you just let go of everything else. You turn around, you make it a priority. You cancel things if you need to, right? If you can
Yeah.
cancel things, and your system would benefit from that,
Yeah.
cancel something. Don't do something else. Make this a priority. You know, I say turn towards yourself. It's like, but it's make yourself a priority over other things. Now, obviously, if you have children or
Yeah.
something that you have to
Bye.
prioritize over yourself, you know, a meeting or that you have to do, like, I'm not, you know, you have to make that judgment call depending on how bad your anxiety is. But that's something you need to feel into. But like, if you can really prioritize yourself, put down the sails for a bit,
Yeah.
and just allow yourself to be in that storm, you'll come out of it way better. Yes.
Yeah. And there's a quality of surrendering as well, I feel.
A quality of
Surrendering.
what?
Surrendering.
Surrendering. Yes.
Surrendering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To be present, you have to, I feel, surrender to like the chaos that's happening
Yes.
within you. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, what does that word mean to you, surrender?
It's a word that I have tried to embody as much as I can in life in general. I've read a book, I may have heard of it, The Surrender Experiment. It's one of the best books that I've ever read. And my question was afterwards, like, how is he doing that? How does he know what to surrender to, and what to what is the right, where is the right place to surrender, you know? And so for me, the word surrender is like, it's an exploration for me of and I think my life is an exploration of surrender, because I've definitely been and it's interesting to think about the protocol. I haven't like connected this word with the protocol, but just for me in my life, I've definitely been in this modality of, or conditioned state of productivity and the way things should be, right? And I would say this has been one of the biggest, and it's consistently, it still is, like, exploration of, where am I doing what I think I should be doing? And where am I not really listening to what life wants? This becomes more esoteric. Right?
Definitely.
And I try not to make the protocol esoteric, because I want everybody to have access to it, right? I want I don't want you to believe in anything airy fairy or woo-woo or anything like that. You don't need to. This works for everybody, any belief system, anything, and it's easy to understand. But I do have this side of me that's quite esoteric.
Same. I understand.
and I believe, and I've found it's proving to be true, and I'm experimenting in my life, and it's difficult to do, letting go of these paradigms of what I should be doing and connecting in with, and this is why what I'm about to say becomes this airy-fairy, connecting in with what life wants from me.
Yeah.
And what life and what wants to happen in the situation, what is flowing, what is
Like Wu Wei.
it's a listening to life. It's a listening to life. So it's kind of ties back into what you said earlier. It's letting go of thinking that I know. It's a letting go of thinking that I know where this is going to go and how this should turn out. So it's kind of the opposite of manifestation.
Yeah. Can see
And
that.
so, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I think
We need
everything,
both in balance. Yeah.
balance, exactly. But it's like, and the way I would look at those two in balance, if we want to go there, is like your goals and your aspirations. I think I've always been a sailor in many lives or whatever, but your goals and aspirations are a guiding star, right? They're a guiding star. You know where you're going in general.
Yeah.
You're never going to get to that star necessarily, right? But they guide your decisions. You know generally where you want to go, but the way that you actually go, you know, if you're on a ship or
True.
you stop at that island, you have that storm, you break
Food
down,
runs out.
food runs out, like, yeah, you have to stop and fish or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have all these adventures on the way, and you don't know what is going to happen. You know, you don't know where this conversation, you know, is going to lead. We don't know who's going to listen to this. So on the way, you're surrendering to the experiences that life's bringing, and the people that life brings, just everything. You're surrendering to life and
itself.
what wants to flow. And so that's external, internal. You have the external situations, the people that you meet, the places, the weather. These things are shaping the way the energy is flowing in life, but internally as well. You know, you have seasons inside. You have days when you are feeling like crap, you know, and our productivity mindset is to be like, I should. This is why the key word to look out for is should. I should still be productive today. But what if you just don't feel like being productive? And this is not everyone can do this. Okay, I'm in a situation where I can experiment with this because I'm my own boss. Disclaimer. And I'm not saying everyone should do. There's no shoulds. But you could experiment with this in your free time. If you have a job, you could experiment with this one day a week or an hour a week or an hour a day, where you look at, what am I saying that I should do in this time? Can I let go of that? And can I just feel what wants to happen? You know, what wants to happen? Like, feel my energy right now. Do I want to lie down? Do I want to eat something? Do I want to go for a walk? Am I thinking about somebody? Could I call them? You know, this for me is a kind of surrender to what's actually happening inside of me and outside of me, rather than my preconceived ideas of how things should be. And again, I think there's a balance to be had, you know.
There's like synchronicity that's happening in your life.
Yes, if you can tune more into that, that's a beautiful surrender. And I think that's what, the Surrender Experiment book is all about.
Yeah.
And what you asked what the word surrender means to me, and I think that's what it means in my life. Can I connect it to the protocol?
Well,
Uh,
uh, I just wanted to say there's a beautiful quote from Terence McKenna. He says, life loves courage. And you know that's true because anytime you act from the place of courage, life removes all the impossible obstacles. You know,
yes.
it doesn't remove like the character building ones, but it removes
Yeah.
all the impossible ones that it knows you can't like handle it.
Okay.
And I feel there's like a quality of surrendering to life as well that requires courage.
Absolutely. 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 And that I can definitely very clearly tie into the protocol because it takes courage.
Yeah.
It takes courage. Daniel Packard, the one who I learned with, has said this quote. This is me quoting him because he didn't put it out anywhere, but we were in a meeting one time and he said, it takes courage to feel,
Mm.
you know, it takes courage to feel.
Yeah.
And we've been running around trying to not feel,
Yeah.
this feeling. We've been running around trying not to, and it's totally understandable. And I've recently watched, I love this analogy. This dropped in for me. I was watching the Guardians of the Galaxy, the
Mm.
last Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
and there's this scene. I really love Guardians of the Galaxy. Firstly, it's very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very well done. It's very well
Yeah.
done, and the spirit of adventure. And so there's this scene. They're on this ship. They come to get their friends, rescue their friends from the bad guy. They've got all their friends together, and they're like, "All right, let's go." Right? Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
The ship is blowing up, and but there's the bad guy still in there, and this bad guy had tortured Rocket since as he tortured Rocket, and he was the bad guy. So
Rocket is like the name of the bad guy.
Rocket is the raccoon,
Oh,
right?
raccoon. Okay.
So I don't
Okay.
want to I don't want to ruin the movie, but basically, like, Rocket, he turns around and he looks towards, where the bad guy would be, somewhere in the ship, and he's like, I ain't running no more. And he like starts to walk in, and then they all look at each other, and one by one, and it's the cool walk that they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they all turn towards, and they all like, and it's like they're like walking into battle,
Mm.
they could leave and get away, but
Mm.
they're the courage in that moment, right? And the bravado, like that exactly that. And they go in and they kick ass, and they're just like, and they're
Yeah.
working together as a team, and they're kicking ass. And it's this feeling, it's this kind of courage. And watch that movie and that scene, and I was just like, it's that feeling of like, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm not running anymore. I'm not running anymore. I'm going in,
Mm.
right? And I'm gonna do this now. And that courage will be rewarded every time,
Yeah.
It's
And
the
I think
courage.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. No. And I think it gets reward, and it's getting rewarded because it's kind of like removing all like in a movie, it's removing all like the impossible logistical constraints. Like even in like a ship, the ship might be sailing, but then you might be lucky that this one wave hits your ship the right way and you could just steer your ship the right amount. And it's like luck, you know what I mean? You could like
Mhm.
call it like the nature is like guiding you, and you like trust nature to like a certain thing, and life is like removing all these like impossible obstacles, but you still have to like steer the ship, do like a protocol or something like that.
Yeah.
And the way I relate that to my life is like, let's say I'm like doing like the protocol. Let's say I'm like doing number one. I'm being here. I'm feeling the emotion, but I'm feeling stuck. Then I'm going to like YouTube. I give up, and then some guy says something that hits the right chord. You know, it resonates
Uh-huh.
so deeply, and you can't predict
Yes.
that, and that helps you heal. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's like a life kind of like removing like that impossible level difficulty to like now making it like a character developing conflict resolution moment for you.
Yeah.
Because
Yes. Yes. And if I can say something that comes up for me from that would be like, I know with my anxiety, I felt like it was an impossible problem. You know, I felt like it was something that I couldn't do anything about, or that I would always have, and I felt defeated, you know. And this having this protocol, and riding out a few storms, and starting to and having this feeling like, wow, not only does it not only can I get out of the storm, but I have the confidence that I can go through storms, and also the storms are getting less because I have less anxiety, right? It's not a perfect
yeah.
analogy, but I'm because I have less trauma to release. So it's no longer an impossible problem, right? There's a confidence that I can do this.
Yeah,
I
competence
can
as well.
do this. Yes, I can do this. Now I know. I feel very confident, and I don't feel at the mercy of the anxiety, right? And it's a huge difference to
Yeah.
feel the difference between feeling like there's no way out and I'm stuck here. That's a prison,
Mm.
you know. But as soon as you start to have a notion that, oh, this works,
Yeah.
and the great thing is when you do the protocol, it works straight away. So you straight away get this notion like, okay, this is something that actually works. This could actually help, and it gives hope.
Yeah.
It gives hope, and that hope can give you the determination to keep going with it.
I
Keep
like that word,
going.
hope. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you have you can do it. Then you can do it. You've got
Yeah.
something that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you like tell me about like that moment, because you're talking like how you were at like you felt like you were at the mercy of anxiety, and you're like the mercy of the storm, and your mind is completely shut down to even like the possibility that you could like feel better, you know?
Yes.
So what is actually now opening up your mind to like that possibility that, maybe this is possible, maybe I can feel better. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like how does one go from like the mind being shut down to like that possibility and just being at this mercy of like anxiety, to now be at least being open to the possibility of, I think I can heal this, and I at least, there's like a hope.
Sure. I mean, I think the answer is pretty simple. Firstly, my experience that hopelessness is a feeling that I'm broken and there's something wrong with me and I can't be fixed,
Mm,
right? This is the fear. Are we stuck in this forever because there's something fundamentally broken and wrong that I
yeah.
cannot fix, right? That's the kind of underlying assumption that is scary, because you just feel trapped. But as I was saying, like, all you need to get out of that is to find something that works consistently, right? Because basically what's happening is that you have this thing, you try something, it works maybe a
Interesting.
little bit one time, but next time it doesn't work. Or you stop doing it. This is the other thing that can happen. So I guess the two things I would say is, one, well, my advice, because it's me, is to do the anxiety relief protocol, the
3 steps.
The free giveaway that you'll put
Giveaway.
the link. Like I have the 3 steps. I give a an introduction again, plus a meditation that you can listen along to, and a 5-day challenge. Implement this in your life for 5 days. If you see that it works, which it will, you now know something works, right? You now know something works. Then you need to be consistent with it over time, right? Because if you find something that works and don't stick with it, it will stop working. It sounds silly, but it's true, and it's what happens. Is there's this protocol only works if you do it, right? It only works if you do it. The only time that it does not help is if you don't do it. And it seems simple and it seems obvious, but the fact is that it's why it's difficult to do is because you have anxiety, right? If you didn't have anxiety, it would be way easier to do. But when you have anxiety, you feel lost and you don't remember, and you're in that, you're falling out of the sky, right? So eventually you will just stop doing it. This is the key, is when you find something that works, and let's say that's the protocol, which I believe it will be. So first you find the thing that works, then you have to create a habit out of it so that you always do that, and so that it always works, right? It will always work if you always do it. It will never work if you never do it, and everything in between. So when you find something that works, you need to turn that into a habit so that it's the go-to thing that you do, and you start to like, anxiety is really common, and all these uncomfortable emotions are very common. Even if you don't struggle with anxiety, people have these emotions all day, and it doesn't need to be full-blown emotion, a full-blown panic attack for it to work or for it to be beneficial. It can be small anxiety things that happen during the day. And if any time you start to feel these uncomfortable emotions or over the, like, if you do this protocol straight away, it will help straight away, and you build a habit of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's by doing it with the small things that happen that will prepare you for the bigger things when they come.
Yeah. Gotta eat the elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's very insightful, and it's very concise as well. I like that a lot. And what you said, like, definitely something I've never heard before.
Which was that?
That you're just feeling hopeless because there's nothing consistent in your life that's working.
Yeah.
That's
If you
something.
have something that works, you'll have hope. And if you see,
that's true.
if you see benefit of, if you see improvement over time, right? So it's not just the thing with this protocol and using this system, is it's not just that it helps you reduce your anxiety when it's out of control, but your anxiety, if you continue to use it the right way, will get less and less, so that it just comes back less. When it's triggered, it won't be as strong. So you're seeing a progression over time of improvement. That's what gives hope. Yes.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So yeah, so let me just ask you this one final question, and then we can like end the call.
Sure.
But I had that question before, like the hopelessness thing, and now that like skipped my mind. Maybe it's not the time for the question to like come up. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm thinking, is there anything else that you would like to share that you feel you haven't touched upon about the protocol?
No, I think that was quite good. I feel like we did a very good,
Yeah.
we went deep with that. I mean, the only thing is to try it, like there's no cost. Give it a try.
Yeah. The
And
link is in the description, the comment section as well. So
yes, give it a try. And like if anyone who tries it, like I really recommend, it's a somewhat scientific approach to measure your anxiety before and after from 1 to 10. So just like and if you have a lot of anxiety and you don't remember, it doesn't matter, just do it afterwards. Try and remember, like, and just write down somewhere in an app or on a piece of paper, like, how strong was your anxiety before and after. You'll often see that it would go from a 7 to a 5 or a 9 to a 4, or like it'll often go down, and sometimes it'll just go down a little bit. But it will usually go down.
Yeah.
And so that means it's working. Even if it just goes down a little bit, that means it's working, because this is also a skill that you build over time, right? So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that it's going to work the best the first times that you do it. Use the meditation that will help train you to do it. It's a guided practice that will help train you on it. Try and remember it. Try and remember to use it when you have any kind of anxiety.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be strong. And I guess, yeah, send me an email or something.
Yeah.
If it's worked, send me a message and let me know. I love
And
to
even
hear
if it
that.
didn't work, you can like send him an
Yeah,
email.
if it didn't work. If it doesn't work, what I would say is, and it's probably because you're saying the words to yourself, but you're not really putting the full intention behind it.
Intention.
Yes, the intention behind it is what makes the strong word. So when you say I'm here, it's to really be there for yourself and prioritize yourself. When you say I'm listening, it's to listen. It's not the word of listening. And when you say it's okay, it's really like to put yourself into that energy of comforting and acceptance. That's what's going to make the difference, and you will feel it. If you the stronger your intention is, the more you will feel it. So it's not if it works, it will work. It's just, are you doing it? Are you doing it? Is how strong your intention is. So if the number doesn't go down at all, my suggestion would be to check your intention and how strong that is. And the last thing is a little disclaimer. Like you said, for some people, sometimes if they have a lot of anxiety and they do this, it can bring up stuff, because you're going inside. And some people will just reduce their anxiety. For many, it will just reduce their anxiety. But every so often, for some people, it will bring things up because you're going inside and you haven't been in there in this way before. So if this happens, if you have a lot of strong emotions come up, the question that I asked you in the beginning, or at some point, and that I would encourage people to ask themselves is, can I handle this? Right? Can I handle this? If you can handle it, stay in there and use the protocol and continue, because it's good. It's great. If you can handle it, do as much as you can handle. That's being Rocket, the raccoon, being brave, showing up, and do what you can. But don't think that you should do this, or that you have to do this, or that you have to do it all right now. Like, if you feel like I can't handle this, stop. Do something else. Do something, and if your anxiety, if you're having an anxiety attack and you can't handle it, then you need to get help, right? If you are feeling a lot of anxiety and you do this and it makes it worse and you can't handle it, just stop and distract yourself.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Watch Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a great movie. And it's not to say that you should do this protocol all the time. There's no shoulds ever in my vocabulary. You do this as much as you can and as much as you can handle, and that will be beneficial to you. But if it ever feels too overwhelming, or you've had enough, distract yourself. It's fine, you know. Have a smoothie, like go for a walk, watch a movie. Like, it's fine to distract yourself, especially when it's too much for you. You know, you have
but you gotta like show up.
You have to find that balance. It's not about always doing this work either, because this is work. It is work. Yes. So that's just something that I want to disclaim, because I've had a couple of times certain kinds of people that you know, will go into this and it will bring up more stuff for them, and that's possible too.
No, that's interesting. And I remember my question, and what I really like about this protocol and why I feel is really good first aid, because I've done like breathing exercises, and you know, I've done like yoga, you can go to gym and stuff like that. But the thing is, it's not that convenient, especially when you're not feeling like it, you know. And what I really like about this is, no matter like what you're doing, you could be lying down in the bed, you could be like sitting in the chair, you could be like watching like something even, and you can still try to like be doing the protocol, and it is very, very convenient. And I think one big thing for me is that and I'm sure like people who are doing this might fall into the trap, which is I don't know why this feeling, even if I feel, let's say I do this for like 15 days, okay, and it worked 15 days consistently, not once, it always reduced my anxiety. But the 16th day, when the anxiety hits, for some reason you feel like, I don't think the protocol would work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know, think, even if you like do the protocol and it will work, you know, even the 16th day it will work. But then the 17th day, next time the anxiety hits, you'll be like, for some reason you'll feel like, like, I don't think the protocol would work, you know, in this situation.
I know. What is that?
I don't know.
What is that? I know.
Do you relate to it?
I totally relate to it. I totally relate to it. And you dismiss things. We dismiss things that have worked for us in the past, and we forget them. Like, and so and this is the battle that I have, is to help people through that. And I so I have the 5-day challenge, and that's really, well, I'm at the moment it's a 5-day challenge, and I think I'm going to change it to a 1-day challenge, because I just want people to try it. Really, I just want them to have the experience that it works. And for some people that could be enough, you know, like they can get the information, they see that it works. And I would say for a very small percentage of people, they could just take that and run with it and implement it in their lives. But of course, my idea is to continue to support people, and I want to create, you know, paid programs for integration. I want to do the next one I would like to do a 1-month program where I'll go deeper into each of the steps, because I'll do like a week on each of the steps, and then 1 week where I go kind of into some other, just expand on it really, because
integrate.
The protocol is very concise, but if you like spend a week on each one of these steps, you know, and really explore it in your life, you'll see how powerful that step is, you know. And we really dive into that one. So I want to spend a week on each step. Plus the idea is to formulate that habit, right? Formulate that habit, because a month is a good time to formulate a habit, and you really will you'll really see a big shift, I believe. Well, I've seen and it's proven that over a month you can see a real shift of this feeling of your anxiety is just generally less. Your general anxiety levels are less. So you have that proof of, it doesn't just like reduce your anxiety in the moment, but you generally have less anxiety, and it builds the habit. So that's the next program I want to do, and
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds exciting.
and build community, you know, to
Yeah,
help
support each
people,
other.
because even after that month, okay, if you're in a group of other people who are doing this, so basically you need to be reminded. That's the key. You need to be reminded. This is the key to your point that you're saying, is we forget. It's forgetfulness, and we need to be reminded. So if you're in a group and other people are like posting that, oh, you know, I did this and it helped me. Like yesterday I had
Yeah,
anxiety at a 9 and I did the protocol and
yeah,
it's a 4. You're like, oh shit, yeah, that works, right? So
yeah,
it's like this reminding from internally but also externally that this works,
yeah,
and that will keep you in the game. And because like it works in the moment, but if you continue to do it over time, man, this will renovate. This will change your life more than this has changed my life more than anything
yeah.
I've done.
No, what I like about the 3 steps is that it is uh, abstract enough where a person could. I feel it's like a very like guiding stars. I feel like these are like 3 North Stars. You know what I mean? Like three
Yeah.
very bright stars in the sky.
Yes.
So, and I feel everyone can find their own way to like uh, take care of themselves, you know, or
Yes.
to listen to themselves, or to
Yes.
like be present with themselves. They can
Sure.
explore their own way, read their own books that excites them, find
Yeah,
ways that
absolutely.
resonate with them personally. But I feel these are like very
Yes.
nice buckets that kind of like
Yeah.
capture the essence of just healing. But
Absolutely.
also they are specific enough where even if you don't have any research behind your and haven't done any research, you still know kind of what to do, or
Yeah.
just like see, look at the thing, or just try to like listen, maybe like
Yes.
emotionally label it or take care of yourself, the best way, or say I'm okay, you still have like this basic here,
Uh-huh.
but then it,
Yes.
it feels like a seed, that, yeah,
Yeah. So I would say, like, exactly as you're saying, these 3 as guiding stars, they are like fundamental things that work in relationships, right? So they are the fundamental things that always work in relationships. Now, each relationship is different,
yeah,
right? Each relationship is different. Each person has different character and different personality and things inside, so it'll be different. And I talked about emotional needs. Like, basic emotional needs is for you to be there, like your presence, your attention, your to be heard, to be cared about, to be accepted as you are. These are basic emotional needs, but we also have different needs that are individual to us. And so part of it is learning to adapt. There's ways, these are the, as you say, like kind of like the core foundation, but there's many directions that you can go from this that will be individual to people. But I find with me, I always keep these 3. I use this all the time.
yeah,
And I will start with these because I remember them, and they will be the start point, and then I can go deeper from there into
yeah,
feeling the things that I need at that moment.
yeah,
And there is a perception there, like the same with somebody else coming to you. You can perceive what they need in that
yeah.
moment. You can kind of tell what kind of love they need in that moment, and you can tailor what you do to their specific situation.
That's so interesting, because when someone is coming, let's say coming with your problem, it's very easy to do the number one, which is like being here. But
Yeah.
when they blame you for the problem, it's not so easy
Yeah.
to do number one. It's
Yeah.
not so
Right.
easy to like be here,
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that in that moment you do need that reminder. Oh,
Reactivity. Yeah. It's and that's yeah, basically it's easy to go into reactivity, which I would say is one of these crew members taking over the system. You're going out of self.
Hijacking.
Yeah, hijacking the system, jumping in. No. You're attacking yourself, you know. And that's for me why the third step brings you back in to kind of coming back into control. You say, okay, this, you're getting some kind of attack towards you, but you go, okay, it's okay to think that. It doesn't mean I agree, doesn't mean it's true, but it's okay for you to think that. I can hold space for that thought and that idea. I cannot judge it.
That's
I can
hard.
yes, it is skill too. But that's why just remembering it's okay brings you back into that, right? It's a reminder, it's an anchor to come back in and go, it's okay. It's okay to think that, you know?
Yeah, definitely like
each
very
one of
strong
these-
and anchors like ground yourself.
You need these strong anchors because it's a strong stimulus.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Being attacked is a strong stimulus, but if you have it's the same with martial arts. It's the same with martial arts. If you have a guy attacking you, you know, it's a very strong stimulus. But if you're trained in the way that you respond to that, it's easy to do, you know, to get out of the way or whatever it is. So the same with this. If there's an attack, if you're not trained, you're going to react to that stimulus. You probably just get punched in the face, or you know, or get in a fight or run away or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, you're not trained. But once you're trained, and this protocol, you want to be trained in it for it to have the best effect.
Yeah.
You are going to just you're just going to do it, you know?
Yeah.
The punch is coming, you're just going to move out of the side of the way and you're going to go, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's okay. I'm okay. You know, you're okay. You know, you can get attacked and you're okay. So that's a higher level of it, but with training, you can definitely.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the more depth it has.
Yes. Yeah. The better you get at it, the better you'll be able to, you know, in the beginning, maybe you get lost sometimes and then you'll remember the protocol, or you won't do it at all. And then afterwards you'll be like, oh, I didn't do the protocol. That would have helped. But that's cool. You've remembered now. So what can you do to make sure you remember next time?
True. This has been a really insightful conversation, Adam. Thank you so much for making the time for this. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Prem. Thank you for the space, and you ask great questions, very insightful. Thank you for your insight, and I don't know, I guess just the fact that you saw this and valued it, and yeah, I really appreciate that from you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And guys, please check out his giveaway where he basically outlined this in a very neat, systematic way. 3 steps. It's like, I think, a PDF, right? With like videos in it.
So you sign up and then it's a video training.
It's a video training that you just get all detailed. Yeah. Do give it a check out. And if you do plan to do the 5-day challenge, you know, hit Adam up and let him know what your experience is, good or bad, especially the bad. Yeah. Then Adam can do his anxiety protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind. It's okay. It's okay. Bad news. It's okay.
Anxiety protocol. Step number 1, 2, 3.
I'm listening. Whatever happens, whatever you want to share with me, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Yes.